Are you ready to explore the unknown? Dive into the world of the strange, mysterious, and unexplained with Eerie Expeditions magazine. Each issue is packed with spine-tingling tales, cutting-edge paranormal investigations, and exclusive insights into hauntings, cryptids, UFOs, and more. Whether you're a seasoned investigator or just love a good ghost story, Eerie Expeditions magazine has something for you. Join our growing community of truth seekers and adventure lovers. Subscribe today at EerieExpeditionsMagazine.com and unlock the secrets of the supernatural. Are you ready? That's EerieExpeditionsMagazine.com, where the extraordinary is just a click away. Dare to discover.
Welcome to the Gateway, broadcasting live from the edge of the Mojave where the strange slips through the cracks. We are live on United Public Radio Network 107.7 FM New Orleans. And I'm your host, C.L. Thomas. Tonight I'm talking with MJ DICKSON in her book, Travels into Africa. But before we get into that, you've been listening to Sean Kelly with On Into the Night right here on United Public Radio Network 107.7 FM. His show comes on again on Sundays at the same time. After this show, tonight is Paratruth with Eric and Justin. That's always a great lineup, so stay tuned after the show to listen to those guys. It's currently 79 degrees here in the valley, and I hope everyone is doing well. I don't see anyone in the comments tonight, so I'm going to skip that part. If anyone is watching, thank you all for supporting the show. I just got back from Orlando, and I have a little bit of a confession to make. So I spent a week in New Orleans and had to go to Orlando for another show. And of course, we went to Disney. Yeah, I don't think I'm really a fan of Disney. I just don't get it. I don't understand. I'm missing the connection here. I don't understand why so many paranormal people flock to Disney. There's nothing real about it. I don't understand. What am I missing? Help me understand. So if you like Disney, I want to know why. Put it in the comments on my Facebook page. I really want to know why people are going to Disney these days as an adult. You know, I can see kids, but not adults. So anyhow, yeah, I traveled to New Orleans and I toured a handful of plantations that are along River Road, and I got the rare chance to investigate and interview some of the private-owned plantations that are down there, and they call it Sugar Valley. There's probably about, I'd say, around 30 different plantations, and the thing that people don't realize when you go down there, these plantations, the ones that are still operating, they are it's called Sugar Valley because it's mainly sugarcane, but rice plantations are also down there. But these farms have been in operation for over 300 years. Think about that. So I can't discuss too much about the places I've been or gone and what I was doing there. But there is one place I want to give a shout out to, and it's the curators of Whitney Plantation. So Whitney Plantation it's very haunted, first of all, but it's one of those places that is so different. Like after a while, these plantations all look the same, right? They all have like the big mansion. They all have all the famous or all the really expensive furniture and things that these families gathered. And a lot of plantations that you go to, that's what they focus on. They focus on the mansion and the fancy things that the original owners created. Whitney, however, it focuses on the 300 plus slaves that lived and worked in the fields there. And you have to remember, these people work there as slaves, 400 of them at a time. And we're talking about a 200-year time period there. So we're talking probably 600-700 people that were slaves in these fields. So Whitney They actually curated the place. They take you through the cabins that they stayed in. There's a row of cabins there that are original to the property, and they take you through what a typical day would have been like for some of these slaves. And they even have like a jail that's sitting there right in the middle of the property. Because if you think about it, when you have that many slaves working the fields and you have one family or maybe just a handful of overseers, well, how did they keep these people from not rising up and running away and things? Like, how did they keep control of them? And they put a jail, like it's a wrought iron cage, literally, right in the middle, right in front of the house, so that the row of slave cabins, that's the first thing you see when you get up in the morning. So there's like that fear base all the time. But it's the only plantation that actually tells you about the story and lives of the slaves. They focus on that. It's very well done, and I highly recommend visiting Whitney Plantation if you're down that way touring. I just wanted to give a quick shout out to that. Tonight on The Gateway, we're exploring the supernatural side of Africa, a world of ancient legends, mysterious creatures, sacred sites, powerful and spiritual traditions that have existed for centuries. Our guest is internationally recognized paranormal investigator, psychic medium, author, and television producer MJ DICKSON. Many of you know her from Paranormal Television, where she has investigated unexplained phenomena and she really has been around the world. I can't wait to have her on. But tonight we're diving into something a little that kind of interests me a lot right now, and that's the supernatural traditions and mysterious legends connected to the African continent. She has a book, Beneath the African Sky, Supernatural Africa. MJ explores African myths and cryptoids and spirit encounters, and we're all going to talk about that tonight. So welcome to The Gateway, MJ DICKSON. Let me get her on here. Hey, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
You know what?
Hi, everybody.
I was reading the intro there for you that I have written just an hour or so ago and didn't realize that you were a psychic medium as well.
Yeah, I got the I speak to dead people gene passed down from mum. So I throw that in there as well.
Now, you live in England currently, right?
I do, yes. I'm just outside Stratford-upon-Avon, so Shakespeare country.
That's pretty cool. I just want to check the comments real quick and then we'll move into the questions.
Sure.
Let's see here. John says it's because of fabulous artwork that he likes Disney. Or does he say, I don't know.
Rather be in New Orleans? I adore you, John.
I'm with you, John. So good evening. Hi, John. They're all talking to themselves, so that's great. So we'll get right into this. Yeah, I'm not a Disney fan. Have you been to Disney, MJ?
No, I'm not a fan. There's nothing about it that appeals to me. No, I don't see the appeal whatsoever. It's not my jam.
You know, there's a thing though where paranormal people go there all the time for some reason. And I'm trying to figure this out. When I was there, it was like kids running around everywhere.
I know they do like really cool haunted house things and, you know, spooky Disney around Halloween and everything. And I mean, that would be pretty cool if you're with a bunch of paranormal enthusiasts to go and hang out if Disney's your thing. You know, I know Aaron Sagers does like a spooky nerds Disney weekend and it's really popular. I think it's cool, but it's just not me. This is not my thing.
I think I'm there. It's just not my thing. I just can't get into it. I don't know. So that's my little Pandora's box for the evening, I guess. So, all right, getting right down into this. You wrote this book, Beneath the African Sky, Supernatural Africa. Let me get it up here real quick. There it is. MJ,
I love that cover so much.
I do too. It's who's the guy that's on here?
I actually interviewed him. He's a Sangoma that does a lot of cursing and killing, and it was really scary, but we'll get into it. Yeah, I actually spent 3 hours interviewing that guy in the middle of rural Zimbabwe.
How did you meet this guy? We'll get into that.
Yeah, we'll get into it.
So first, okay, what inspired you to write the book? And how did your personal connection to Africa influence the stories you chose to explore?
I actually went back to South Africa. So I'm born in Zimbabwe, raised in South Africa. And when I was growing up, you could never talk about anything psychic or, that your family were different and did tarot readings and that sort of thing. So you don't really discuss the paranormal. It's still very taboo. And over the years of exploring around the world, literally throughout Europe, throughout America, throughout the UK, and chasing down every legend, I thought it would be really cool to go back home with all the experience that I have now and go and delve into the cryptids and the weird mysteries and legends back home, things that I grew up with, and share that with the rest of the world. I went back home for a very personal reason to do with family, which is in the book. And I thought, to keep my mind off the family stuff that was going on, I was going to chase whatever story I could find. None of it was really planned in advance. There were only one or two things that I had that were kind of on my bucket list, people that I wanted to interview. But it was just the serendipitous, happy little accidents that I went from one story to the next. So it really is a travel adventure. I mean, you guys are discovering it with me whilst I'm traveling, and it was really fun. It was good to go home.
How long did you live in Zimbabwe?
Well, I mean, I was there up until the age of 6. I lived in Greece for a couple of years, moved back to South Africa, and I try and go back to Zimbabwe as often as possible. But I mean, throughout my life, I've always gone and spent time there. Hi.
That's Heidi. She's an excellent person. So Africa is rich with spiritual traditions and folklore. And, I skimmed briefly through your book the last couple of days, and I'm really impressed.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. Thank you.
So you go into the myths and legends you encountered were there myths and legends that you encountered during your research that genuinely surprised you or unsettled you?
But hands down, the mermaids of Zimbabwe. I was like, what? We have mermaids? Like, what the hell? Where'd that come from? Because that was something that I'd never heard when I was growing up. There were legends like the Tokoloshi. I grew up with that. The Inkanyamba. I grew up with that. Impundulu. Grew up with that. I knew all of these weird cryptids and legends and things, but I had no idea that Zimbabwe have a mermaid problem. And I mean, when I say problem, I mean to the point where the Minister of Agriculture shut down work on several new dams that were being built because the workers were being tormented by mermaids. To that extent, I mean, you're talking government officials are willing to shut down projects because they're like, oh no, can't do that. There's mermaids there. What? Right? So I think that was probably the deepest rabbit hole that I went down whilst I was there. That and finding out that South Africa have a dedicated supernatural task force in their police. So if you called them, yeah, it's really cool. So basically, if you called them and said, the Tokoloshi stole my groceries, they have to send somebody out to investigate it. Like, they have a dedicated team to investigate paranormal, supernatural, and occult crimes. It's mind-blowing to me. So that was, probably my favorite rabbit hole that I went down for the book.
That is
very bizarre. It's very cool.
Yes. Well, there's no other country that does that.
No, they're the only ones in the world.
You know what I'm thinking, though? If there is a task force like that, does that open that door a little bit to, well, I don't like my neighbor, so she must be a witch, like what happened in Salem?
100%. So one of the things that people still can't wrap their heads around, in South Africa, the 1957 Witchcraft Suppression Act is still in place, which basically means that if I were to do a psychic reading or tarot reading for somebody, in Africa, well, Southern Africa, and they decided that I didn't give them enough information or I gave them false information. By law, I can be imprisoned for up to 2 years and given a 200,000 rand fine, which is the equivalent of about, well, I don't know, $10,000 fine for doing a tarot reading. So hence why I say people still don't really openly talk about witchcraft or the paranormal because we still have that law in place. And we still have another thing, like you say, you know, does that open the door for sort of the witch trials kind of thing, you know, persecutions and things. In Africa, it was specifically South Africa, we still have up to 1,000 witch burnings a year. And I'm talking, I mean, this year, you know, we still have those going on. Yeah.
I have read something, and I can't remember. Africa is such a big continent. It seems different in every pocket. But I think this was in West Africa somewhere where there was a witch hunt going on. So in the villages and stuff, like if somebody got sick from, and it was quite recent, and I want to say it was like COVID, actually. They were blaming different witches and things.
Witchcraft. Yeah, 100%. So anytime there is any drought, famine, any illnesses, anything of the sort, a lot of the African villages will start pointing fingers and saying it's witchcraft. The reason the people in the village are dying is it's not because it's COVID. It's not because it's a global thing. It is witchcraft. We've been cursed. So we do have a lot of witch hunts that take place. And again, that is predominantly one of the reasons why we have the occult crimes unit, the supernatural unit, is to investigate all of those sorts of witch burnings. And I mean, there's some really bad ones that have taken place in the last year. You know, you're talking about 84-year-old ladies that have been beaten and set on fire for witchcraft in their village. And yeah, it's terrifying.
Is there any outreaches that you know of going on to help maybe help that situation?
Not really. I know the Pagan Federation of Southern Africa have stepped in and done quite a bit to educate people between, you know, what a religion is, you know, if you're a pagan religion, and what witchcraft is, like if whether you are a practicing witch. They've kind of stepped in and try to help out. And they also do a memorial for all of those who have been burnt for witchcraft in Africa. And try and help where they can. But no, Africa's very different. You don't get involved, you know, unless the police are handling it. It's not safe to get involved.
Yeah, I could see that. Definitely see that. So, okay, back to your book. You explore African cryptids and mysterious creatures. Aside from the mermaids, are there particular creature legends that you believe could have a real-world explanation behind it?
Oh my goodness, yes. I mean, we have the Inkanyamba, which is allegedly the serpent-like creature with a horse head that lives in Howick Falls, or there are several waterfall areas that it has been cited in. Honestly, I think it's a large eel. We have some really big eels up there. So I'm like, yeah, I like the idea of the legend. There's never been any evidence, but there's been a lot of evidence of really large eels. So I mean, it's, you know, it falls within African beliefs, which is another thing. The belief in certain cryptids and things throughout the African tribes is way more intense than you would find. So if I said to you, hey, do you believe in the Jersey Devil? It's kind of like, yeah, maybe, you know, there's no evidence. Or Bigfoot, right? I've gone out Sasquatching. I've gone out to go and look for Sasquatch in the Rocky Mountains and in Washington State. Do I think he exists? I don't know. I mean, possibly. We don't know, right?
Right.
We have no idea. And I like the idea of that mystery. Whereas in Africa, I was trying to interview people about the Tokoloshi, and they refused point blank to even say its name in fear that they would summon it. I mean, it's such a deep-rooted belief and fear of this creature that I couldn't even get people to talk to me about it. It was really bizarre. People would just be like, nope. I asked so many people, and finally I had a couple that were willing to sort of brush on it. But yeah, it's really different.
We have something similar to that here in America with the Native Americans and the Skinwalker. Now I know that
Yes.
Skinwalkers all over it's all over pop culture and all that kind of stuff right now. But when you start getting into the actual the Navajo lands and stuff, the people that live on those lands it's very serious business to them. They won't discuss it. Their medicine man won't even say the name or anything.
Yeah, very similar. I think it goes back to those older traditions, older cultures that, I mean, I don't know. What do they know that we don't, right? I think
Yeah.
that's what intrigues me so much, is like, how do you believe in something so surely you wouldn't have such strong belief in it if it didn't exist.
It's
You've
really
got all of
interesting.
you've got all these legends that carry on for centuries throughout an entire country, like people that have never spoken to each other, yet their experiences are identical. Like, how? That's the stories I love.
Well, one of the things that I really like about your book is that you kind of point out, with all of the different things that you talk about, I mean, it's packed full of stuff, your book, but you go into the idea that everything in Africa, and to the people there, everything is like a living spirit. From
Yes,
like the
very much
trees,
so.
the rocks,
Everything has energy. Everything is a living spirit. Everything, whatever you take from the land, needs to be honored. You need to give back. You work with your land spirits. You work with animal spirits. You work with ancestral spirits. I mean, it is eye-opening when you're there. It makes you look at the world around you in a completely different perspective. It's really great.
with that deep-rooted belief system that they have in their ancestral spirit, in their continued spirit communication. How do those traditions compare to paranormal beliefs we see in the Western world?
I think, how do I word it? I think one of the things that I love so much about it is that we don't, in the Western world, if you want to go to a psychic medium for a reading, right? We're like, okay, our family on the other side, I want to hear from them. That's great. So we go to a psychic medium, we have a reading done, they give us some information, we're in tears, we get some closure, job done, right? Whereas in the African tradition, they lean on their ancestors for everything. I mean, everything, to the point where our government consults the ancestors of the land before they start a project. The government go to sangomas for these divination readings, but also these rituals to contact their ancestors to give them answers. So, for instance, it's sort of the difference between a sangoma and a witch doctor, if you will, in Africa. So witch doctor, very much witch doctor, right? If you need anything healing, you go to them. And they've got herbs and potions and tinkages and things that they work with. But for instance, if we both have stomach cramps and we go to the same witch doctor, we're not going to get the same treatment. They consult your ancestors, and your ancestors will tell them the treatment that you specifically need. So they're constantly leaning on the other side. They see them around them, it's a part of their world all the time. The paranormal is very much a part of everyday life. Not whereas here in, Western world, we're going on ghost hunts, asking them to knock 3 times, or what color t-shirt am I wearing. They're consulting them about, government decisions. It's really bizarre. The contrast is unbelievable.
How are they born, like, the only thing I can think of that is in any kind of relation is maybe the Native American culture, where their tribes seem to pick somebody to be the medicine man, and they're brought up from a very young age to learn all the oral traditions and legends and things like that. Is that similar to what's going on there?
Very similar. Very, very similar. And one of the things that I found really interesting was I interviewed I think she was about 92 or 94 years old. I can't remember now. But this medicine woman, this juju lady, and she does psychic readings, and she's got all the tinctures and potions you can think of. And you know, people consult her for all sorts of things, whether it's to do with pregnancy or whether it's to do with cursing somebody, the full spectrum. And when I was interviewing her, she told me that she grew up and became a policewoman. Her mother used to be the medicine woman around town, and she kind of poo-pooed things. She grew up wanting everything to be kind of straight and narrow, joined the police force, and became really ill. And nothing they did would help. I mean, she went through doctor's appointment after doctor's appointment, ended up in hospital. She was on death's door. And her mother kept saying to her, it's because you won't accept the spirits. You are next in line. And until you accept the spirits, you will remain sick or you will die. And she had to go through this whole ritual to accept that into her life. And the moment she did, it was like nothing ever happened. And so she carried on her mother's legacy. And it was just so strange to me. It's not the first time that I've heard this, that if you are chosen, you are not necessarily chosen by your village or, you know, your town or whatever it is, but you are chosen by the spirits to do this work. And unless you agree, they will make themselves. So yeah, it's very, very different in that sense. Where I don't think it's the same in Native American culture. You know, if you don't want to go down that route, you're not pressured into it, you know, you don't get sick, that sort of thing. But in African culture, you really do.
That's really interesting. Now, I do have to ask this, just because there seems to be a lot of confusion between voodoo, particularly around New Orleans. A lot of the people say that that's an African religion. I hear that over and over again. In some ways it is, but in some ways it's not.
I mean, voodoo is a melting pot, because you have Southern Africa, West Africa, you've got Haitian, you've got, you know, it is a melting pot, especially New Orleans, because you've got this Creole, French, Haitian. Like it's genuinely a jambalaya of everything. And whereas in Africa, I don't know, it's not. We do have more voodoo. But I don't know. Not every Sangoma is a voodoo practitioner in Southern Africa. It's more just a way of life. It's just I don't know how to explain it. It's just the African tradition. It's just so strange to explain, because it's not like a set chosen, you know, I practice voodoo or I do this. It's just Africa. It's just what they do.
It's interesting. That's something I learned over the weekend too. Most of the slaves that originated in the sugar plantations where I was came from West Africa, which is very interesting. So they called it West Congolese.
Yeah.
And so
and also Benin and that sort of area as well. So we do see a lot of that trickling down even into Southern Africa, you know, not necessarily just New Orleans. The use of voodoo dolls. Some of the earliest voodoo dolls and things ever found were West Africa. And so that sort of tradition with, you know, voodoo puppets and voodoo dolls using nails and things, that is all very African. And that's kind of seeped through. It's, again, West Africa to Southern Africa is completely different. You know, you see some of the influence, but Southern Africa is vastly different when it comes to their practices. And yeah.
Got it. Okay, so I want to talk about some of the locations that you've been to. What are some of the Southern African locations that you experienced that might have had a strong paranormal reputation?
What's interesting is that it's not your traditional sort of haunted abandoned hospital or that sort of thing, which we do have. We do have. I mean, honestly, I haven't really had the opportunity to go and investigate a location in that way, sort of, get out the REM pods and the spirit box and that sort of thing out there. The investigations that I've done have been more into the cryptid side of things and the magical and witchcraft side of things in Africa, which is exactly why I'm going back to do another follow-up book. I'm kind of waiting for the political unrest over there to kind of die down a little bit. So before I go home again, hopefully, I mean, I was supposed to go at the beginning of last year and it just didn't seem like the right or safe time to go. So hopefully, maybe the end of this year, I'm actually going back to do the hospitals and haunted lighthouses and haunted forts and all of those wonderful locations that we have, because we have plenty. But when it comes to the trip that I did for Supernatural Africa, Beneath the African Sky, probably the place that I went, wow, this is active, was the Chinoi Caves. It's still used by African mediums and sangomas to perform all of their rituals in the cave system. It is a very sacred ground. It is a very spiritual place. And it has a lot of elemental energy, a lot of earth energy, earth spirits, like nature spirits and things as well, that it is just genuinely a really active location. So it was beautiful as well.
That's interesting. I have a couple questions about that. You keep mentioning what is the word that you keep mentioning? Because I know I can't say it.
The Tokoloshi?
Yes. What is that?
So a Tokoloshi it's not really a cryptid. I don't really know what to call it, honestly, because it can manifest in spirit form and in physical form. Tokoloshis are created by sangomas. So in Zimbabwe, you would call it a sangoma, which is a magical practitioner that can heal and curse people. Witch doctors generally focus on the healing side. Sangomas, bit of both. They will have they will strike someone down with lightning, or they will cause snake bites, snakes in your house, or like random things, or just random curses, however bad you want it to be. If somebody steals something from you, they will hex them and everything in their life will fall apart. So in South Africa, that would be called an Inyanga. So same thing, different name. And then also in South Africa, we have the Baloi. Now, Baloi use human body parts in all of their magical working, so it's much darker magic. And again, why we have the occult crimes unit in South Africa is to investigate the number of people who are kidnapped and murdered for the use of traditional, what we call muti. So it translates to medicine, but it's not. It means magical spell ingredient. So human body parts are very sought after. And with that comes the creation of the Tokoloshi. So in South Africa, we call it the Tokoloshi. In Zimbabwe, they call it the Chikwambo. And it requires a human body. So often you'll have grave robbings or somebody will be murdered.
I was just going to ask you that. Do they have the grave robbing?
We have plenty of them. And so they will take this body to a sangoma. The sangoma then will go through the entire ritual where they stitch the eyes closed or remove the eyes so that it cannot see for itself. They will stitch its mouth closed so that it cannot speak for itself. They will take a hot poker and stick it through the middle of the forehead. And the heat is said to bring this spirit or this entity to life. And they fill it with magical herbs in the body. They blow a mix of magical herbs into the mouth to activate it, and it is your Tokoloshi. You have to look after it. It does your bidding. And so if you need help with your business, Tokoloshi will help you with your business. If you want somebody murdered, you can send the Tokoloshi to go and kill them or torment their children. So it is basically it becomes sort of your, for lack of a better word, like a familiar that does your bidding. What was really disturbing that I found out in Zimbabwe for a Chikwambo, they keep the remains of the person in a small jar, and anytime you're doing any spell work or anything, you will use this jar and direct this spirit or physical being to do whatever it is, right? But in Zimbabwe, the younger the body, the better. So you have a lot of newborn babies that go missing. You have a lot of pregnant women who are, in their last term, who are kidnapped because they want that child straight out of the womb. The younger the child, the better. And it's really disturbing. So yeah, we do have, it's a very interesting, I don't know what to call it. Monster, cryptid, I don't really know, because it's not like an undiscovered species of animal or something, it's this weird conjured goblin. It's about 2 foot tall when it manifests. It's just this really strange little creature, like a Schmeagle looking thing. And a lot of people have seen them. A lot of people say that if you say the name Tokoloshi, that you will summon one if it's in the area, and it will either kill you. I mean, do yourself a favor, right? Anybody watching this, please do me a favor. Yes, creation is a great word for it. It's just this weird creation. Go and Google Tokoloshi headlines in South Africa, newspaper headlines, and you will find things like Tokoloshi put a tracker in my bum. The Tokoloshi stole my groceries. The Tokoloshi killed 7 family members. So again, when it comes to the crime side of things, you have a lot of the Tokoloshi made me do it. Like the devil made me do it. In other cases, in Africa, you have all of these cases that are like, it's not me, it was the Tokoloshi that killed him. I just saw it happen. But yeah, it's very bizarre. It's an interesting creature.
That could be wait a minute. So whenever I kind of missed this part. Whenever they steal the body parts, are the body parts used as a sacrifice, or is their spirit used?
It's both. It's both. So they use the body to kind of, I guess, trap the spirit, and so the spirit does your bidding. There's stories that they actually activate the body, so kind of like a zombie, but it shrinks in size. Apparently not everything shrinks. I think I found that the most fascinating, just hilarious part of it. Everyone was like, well,
that's interesting. What kind of spell work is that used for?
Well, okay, so, and this is going into the South African headlines and things, because you'll see so many headlines of the Tokoloshi sexually assaulted me or harassed me. One of my favorites is the Tokoloshi was twerking for my husband. Oh, that's a newspaper headline in South Africa. Like, what? That's crazy.
Wow.
It's really fascinating. But I started digging into some of the cases that the Occult Crimes Unit were investigating that involved Tokoloshis. And it was anything from it stole my groceries or it ripped my house apart to when the actual the founder of the Occult Crimes Unit went out personally with the unit to go and investigate one of these crimes. He allegedly saw a 2 to 3 foot man, this shriveled up goblin looking man that was tormenting the young daughter in the house, and he caught a glimpse of it in the house. And this is not somebody who, he's very scientific. He will debunk things. I mean, he believes that, yes, it's cult-related crimes, but there's nothing supernatural happening. This is just, they're using this as an excuse. And he full-on says, he swears to God that he saw this creature. So that was super interesting that somebody that high up in the police would be like, no, this exists. It's just, I don't know how it travels between the spiritual, like spirit form and physical form. That fascinates me, is that it's able to do both. I guess Bigfoot, people say that Bigfoot does the same thing, with the more spiritual form, like the cloaking and that sort of thing, and then a physical presence as well.
Kind of like a shapeshifter almost, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
In a way, kind of. Yeah. I don't know.
So strange, though.
It is so. It's really fascinating. I just have all these ideas now that you said that I don't even know where to take the conversation from here. There's so many different things we can go into.
There was another interesting part. Staying on the Tokoloshi for a second, I eventually got somebody to talk to me about it, and I was filming everything. So on my Patreon, there is a full episode. It is on YouTube as well. So if you want to go and check it out, I believe it's just called Beneath the African Sky, Supernatural Africa. But there's about an hour of footage from my trip. Whilst I was doing everything, all the research for the book, I filmed everything. So you can actually watch all of the interviews. You can see all the people that I interviewed and all the weird characters and things. And one of the guys, I think this is on my Patreon. I don't think this one's on YouTube, but he agreed to be on camera for this interview. And I'm sat there holding my phone up, just trying to get a little bit of footage of him. And he was answering all sorts of questions about, African traditions and witchcraft and all sorts of stuff. And I was like, all right, let's talk about the Tokoloshi. And he went, I'm not going to talk about it. And the moment he said, I refuse to talk about the Tokoloshi, the whole screen went blank. The whole thing malfunctioned. My whole phone, it just like glitched every time he said the name Tokoloshi. And I was sat there like, hello. I was like, this is weird. And, it was so that it did it the entire trip. Everything else was perfectly fine. So weird.
That is so weird. So weird. Well, one of the comments here, I have to point this out. If anyone hasn't read this book yet, I highly recommend it. Here it is. I'm going to put it up on the screen again. And
thank you so much.
They can find us at mjdickson.com, right?
Yes, so I do have a few signed copies if people want me to send them a signed copy. Otherwise, you can grab it off Amazon. So it's available on amazon.com and .uk. Pretty sure it's in a few other countries as well through Amazon. And if you go to your local bookstore, you can ask them to order it for you. They should be able to order it in for you as well.
Now, can we talk about this guy for a second that's on the cover?
Yes. So, oh my gosh. Okay, so this guy, this is the Sangoma that I interviewed, Sangoma Mbimbo. Now, this was one of the only things that I had pre-organized. My mum had this guy that used to do security work for her. And she reached out to him and said to him, hey, do you know any Sangomas in the area that would be willing to talk to my daughter for her research? He arranged everything. And he went along with me because a lot of people in the rural areas don't really speak English. So he was my translator. And it was terrifying. It was fine at first. Like I was sat in this room. He's in the full headdress. He's got full traditional garb on. And he's going through all of the herbs and things. And this is in the video actually on YouTube. You can actually watch this interview. He does a demonstration of how he curses people with lightning, like how he gets somebody struck with lightning. He does these weird magical demonstrations. And I'm sat there going, listen, if you know anything about science, like I can make smoke appear like that using the right ingredients, but you have to remember that people that are in rural Africa that may not have the knowledge of certain chemicals mixing or certain plants mixing to cause a chemical reaction, to them, he's saying, I'm going to curse your neighbor and have them struck by lightning. He mixes a whole bunch of herbs and weird ingredients and holy water together. And all of a sudden it starts smoking. And he goes, hey, job done. Your neighbor's going to get struck by lightning. They just see the smoke and that they're like, oh my God, witchcraft. Like, wow, this is amazing. I was sat there going, all right, dude. And then there were a few things that he did where I was like, there's no way he could know that. Like, there's no way he could have done that, like pre-done it, or it was just really weird. And then we started talking about like chikwambos and cursing people and that sort of thing. And he was like, my translator, Wellington, was like, oh yeah, this guy kills people. Like he uses their bodies. And I was like,
were you worried that you were going to disappear at some point?
Yeah, I like sat in the middle of rural Zimbabwe. I'm this like really tiny pasty white girl that would fetch a pretty price on the black market for witchcraft. I'm like, this is how I die. This is right here. This is how I die. I'm gonna get chopped up into little bits and used in spell work. This is it.
Oh,
So
man.
it was a little creepy, I'm not gonna lie. I was very thankful to walk out of there unscathed. But yeah, he was just a super fascinating person. Yeah. Tokoloshi sounds like the founder of Bitcoin. I love it. That's a great comment.
I was kind of thinking, along the lines of, the Wizard of Oz show is going on in Las Vegas right now. I was kind of thinking maybe he's the wizard behind the curtain kind of thing. I was kind of waiting
Right.
for something like that.
They're very strange, very hands-on. Also, another thing that people don't realize is in order to be... So I spoke about the South African Witchcraft Act, right? But yet we have traditional nyangas and things in South Africa and the Sangomas in Zimbabwe. So how are they able to practice and curse people and, all sorts of things and get away with it? It's because you have to be registered with the government. As long as you are registered with the government as a practitioner, it means that should the government need your services to curse the hell out of somebody or to consult their ancestors about some decision that they need to make in Parliament, you are pretty much at their beck and call because you're registered with them. So as long as you do their work when they call on you, you're good. You can practice. You can curse the hell out of your neighbors. It's fine.
So
you won't get charged.
What does the neighbor have to do to be cursed? Just out of curiosity.
Oh my gosh. Listen, it can be anything from you took one of my chickens to I don't like the way you looked at me to you looked at my wife. I saw it. Like, literally, it could be anything. They will curse you for the slightest thing.
Oh my goodness. It just gets crazier and crazier.
And this is so when I tell people I grew up with the paranormal, I mean, I grew up in a psychic household. I'm fifth generation psychic medium. My entire family, all the females are psychic. And my paternal grandmother great grandmother was psychic as well. So I have very much the psychic spiritual side of things. But when I say I grew up with all things paranormal being completely normal, because that's what it's like in Africa. It is completely normal. Like, it is such a part of life. If you want to go and hire a Sangoma to curse somebody, like, that's like, oh yeah, just another day. It's not like oh my gosh, taboo. That's like any other Tuesday.
So in other words, it's actually the Western culture that's paranormal.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Africa is the home of the paranormal, literally. We have some of the oldest ghost stories and traditions in the world. But yeah, it's funny to see the difference. Like, the Western side are like, ooh, it's paranormal. And we're like, it's Monday.
It's interesting because Africa is it's actually the what am I trying to say? It's like the crux of civilization.
Yeah, it's the cradle of
civilization happened there, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And all of this supernatural, they haven't grown out of that supernatural element. What are we missing as a Western culture?
One of the things that I came across while doing my research was the cradle of humankind in South Africa. It's the caves where Homo naledi was discovered. And when they discovered the remains deep within a cave system, the Rising Star cave system, I mean, these are 250,000 years old, right? And when they discovered the remains, one of the bodies was buried with a stone tool in its hand. Now, you have to think, stone tools were a valuable commodity. They were precious. You would use them for hunting, for food, for whatever. You wouldn't just bury somebody with a stone tool because it was so valuable to them, unless they believed that you needed it in the next life. So we're talking 250,000 years ago. there's evidence of a burial ritual where they were carrying these bodies deep within a cave system through, I mean, some of the shafts that they had to climb down and everything in order to get to this inner chamber, the Ndeledi chamber, where these bodies were found. It's not a small task. You got to think you're carrying a body, dead weight, carrying a body through that whole system in order to bury them. So there's evidence of these funerary procedures that were taking place 250,000 years ago, and then finding the stone tool in their hand suggests that they believed in something more. They believed in an afterlife. This is way before we're talking Egyptians, and you know what I mean? Like nothing compares to that. In Africa is essentially the home of all things paranormal and that strong belief in another world.
It just blows my mind. There's so much that we're not tapping in the paranormal community.
100%. Absolutely.
I feel like we're looking in the wrong direction, maybe.
I think there's, for instance, this week we've had an exceptional amount of paranormal activity in our house. Things moving around, doors opening and closing, TV switching on. I literally this evening, I had my tablet's charging cable was sat on my desk and just launched off the desk. And my mom and I were sat here having dinner going, hello? Hey, listen, can you not throw things around? Like, we've had a week of this. Just talk. We can hear you. But for us, it's not. It's our ancestors. It's fine. Like, they're trying to give us a message. We're trying to. It's a very natural thing to us. It's not like, oh my God, there's a ghost. We don't do that. We're just like, all right, the other side has a message for us. What are you trying to tell us? Like, let's communicate. What do I need to do in order to make it easier for you to get that message across to me? And this could be whether it's my dad on the other side or my brother or whatever the case is, or it could be, a long lost ancestor that's trying to get a message across. But we believe that you have this A-team of people on the other side, these spirits on the other side that want to work with you and help you in your everyday life and make things easier for you. The difference is in Africa, we tap into it. We consult our ancestors. If you're stuck on a decision that you need to make in your life, you would sit down, meditate, or do whatever it is you want to do, whatever feels comfortable, whether it's bone divination, tarot reading, whatever it is, lighting a candle, and just waiting for them to give you a sign somehow. But we consult our ancestors. We tap into it. And that is something that people in Western culture don't do. We don't honor our ancestors the way other people do. Look at the Native Americans. They do so much to honor their ancestors. Look at New Orleans. Mm-hmm. They are so in tune with spirits in New Orleans. Again, you speak to anyone who lives or grew up in Louisiana, and the spirits are there. They're a part of their everyday. In voodoo tradition, you consult the spirits for everything and anything, or you consult your ancestors, or we set up days where we have the whole family come to the grave site and we spend the whole day telling stories about that person to keep their name alive, to keep them in our world, to keep them as a part of our lives. So it's not just Africa, but Western culture tend to not utilize that. I'm like, why? You have this whole A-team on the other side. Like, tap into it.
I'm going to start tapping into it tonight.
There you go.
In a way, I do that with spirit guides, but not so much. And I need to start tapping into the ancestry stuff, though. It's a good point.
That's what I'm saying. In Western culture, we're like, who's my spirit guide? I'm like, listen, why are you worried about some random spirit guide when you have an entire damn ancestral line that are there to help you?
Man, I love that. So, man, MJ, we're just about time. I can't believe it.
Gosh, already.
This has been such a great conversation. I know it goes so fast. I want you to talk about real quick your Patreon events and your paranormal holidays that's coming up, the Dark Departures.
Thank you so much. So on Patreon, I have taken a little bit of a break this month. Basically, a ghost gave me a fright. I twisted my back very badly, And so I'm currently going through like all the chiropractor appointments and things. So I've taken a wee bit of a break from Patreon for a few weeks while I sort this out. But I do have Patreon only events every year. Myself and the author Richard Estep, we like to kind of cross-pollinate our Patreons and get everybody out to join us. And we're actually heading to Salem, Massachusetts in 3 weeks. I'm so excited. So we're doing all things spooky and witchy and paranormal for a few days in Salem. And I'm looking forward to it. You know, there's going to be everything from guest speakers. We're doing some paranormal talks and workshops. We have psychic remote viewing experiments. We have
Oh,
like we're
wow.
going to go watch a movie together. We're doing all sorts of really cool things over 4 days. And these are the types of events and things that we offer purely to our Patreon communities. So there's quite a few people in the chat that are going to be there, actually.
Yeah, I see
So
that.
you guys do 3 weeks. And then, yeah, I host paranormal holidays around the world. So I do, at the moment, I'm doing 2 Supernatural Scotland tours. These are 10-night paranormal holidays. And we stay in great hotels or haunted hotels. We do several investigations. We're chasing legends. We're going looking for Loch Ness, on Loch Ness for Nessie. We're actually going out on the research vessel to scan the loch. We're exploring castles and all sorts of things. So the adventures are really jam-packed. There are 10 nights. We do Scotland. I do a Emerald Isle, so Ireland in September. We're doing Ireland. I think I've got 3 spots left for that. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. And I'm doing another Haunted England one. So it's 10 days in England exploring all things weird. And then I've just launched New Orleans. I do one there every couple of years at least. So we're going back to New Orleans next year for 10 days in May. And yeah, so if you want to know more about it, you can find out more on my website, mjdickson.com, or sageparanormal.com. It's probably got more, sageparanormal.co.uk. That's probably got more information on for the holidays. But it's super fun. And I only take 10 people max.
Oh, then. You know, that's kind of I like that because sometimes in the bigger groups, you kind of get lost. It's like that with paranormal investigations too. I just stopped doing paranormal investigations because they're so big. You don't get anything accomplished, you know?
So any of my paranormal investigations, for instance, you know, I've teamed up with Jessica Chobot from, she was on Expedition X and Bigfoot took her, you know, she's on quite a few shows and things. And so Jess and I teamed up for an event. It's a weekend at Shepton Mallet Prison. Actually, there's a handful of tickets left for this. So we're investigating, it's the 17th and 18th of April. We're investigating one of England's oldest prisons. And we're only taking like 20 people for the night max, and we're splitting up into smaller groups. And the place is so big, you won't even know there's another group in the place. It's just massive. But that's probably the biggest paranormal events that I do outside of like Sage Paracon that I do every year in Virginia. Which again, my paranormal convention we're about 45, 50 people for the weekend. And that's the size I like. When it comes to investigations and holidays and things, I don't do more than sort of like 12, 15 people on normal investigations. Like that would be my absolute max. Most of the time we're like 8 people. I'm happy with that.
Well,
Otherwise,
MJ,
you're right. You don't have to do anything.
thank you so much for being on the show. I really enjoyed having you on.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. And thank you to everybody in the chat. I adore you guys. Everybody that I know, thank you. I can't wait to see you. And thanks to all the new people. I hope you guys keep in touch.
You've been listening to The Gateway, broadcast from the edge of the Mojave where the strange slips through the cracks, live from United Public Radio Network 107.7 FM New Orleans. I want to thank my guest, MJ DICKSON, author of Travels into Africa. Thank you for listening to The Gateway. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe and leave a review and share it with a fellow traveler of the strange and the unexplained. Until next time.